So guys, can we welcome to the stage for our first guest speaker, Minnie Latif. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi guys. What an audience. Oh my God. This is my first time. I'm just going to tell everyone up front. Straight up. So nervous.
Yeah, no need to be nervous.
Okay.
We're just having a bit of a conversation.
Is it? All right then.
So
I'm going to calm down then. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just a case of, we want to listen to your story and how you got to where you are today. So how did you start off in business?
I grew up with parents that always had their own small business. So they were making coffee before it was cool, and they weren't called baristas back then. So we were just working really hard in the takeaway shops. And I honestly grew up really believing that everyone grew up to start their own business. I had no idea that you didn't own your own business when you became an adult.
That's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Super powerful.
Yeah, I just thought that's just the way we do it. So watching my parents struggle somewhat in takeaway shops and cafes and stuff, but making a healthy living for us, I knew that it could have been done better and more sophisticated. So my goal was not to get into the food industry, but certainly I was going to run my own business, maybe in an industry that I enjoyed, which at that time I loved fashion and I loved beauty because I'm a typical girly girl. I'm talking 10 years old thinking now.
Yeah.
And so when I grow up, I'll go and probably work for those big corporate companies, learn all the policies and procedures, and then go and start my own business. I knew this as a kid. That was the path I needed to take.
Yeah. At 10 years old, were your parents encouraging that as well? Were you expressing some of these views with your parents at that time?
Yeah, and they said, you are going to be a lawyer. That's what's going to happen with you. So you're going to go to Monash, very specific, yeah? You're going to go to Monash and you're going to be like the best lawyer out. Because I spoke to my mum about it last night. So I have an ebook, and my ebook is called How to Be a Dirty Entrepreneur. And my mum was a bit taken back. Going, you're not dirty. Why would you call yourself dirty? And I said, no, entrepreneur used to be a dirty word. So when I was 10, if I said to you, Mum, I want to open my own business, you would have said, no, you need to be a lawyer, doctor, or engineer. Those were the three really respectable career paths that migrants of that period, they had, like my parents are from Cyprus, so they had come to Australia to escape the war and to, try and have a better life for themselves. So when they ended up having a family themselves, they did very thankless jobs, but they did them so their three children could have an opportunity. And in their mind, that opportunity is, again, lawyer, doctor, engineer.
And then also talking about obviously picking up those skills. You had the vision of, obviously siphoning the information and learning people's processes from the bigger end of the scale.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because obviously you made that trip over to London, you're working in the agency space. What happened there?
So the agencies were actually my clients. So I worked for British Telecom and Lloyd's TSB. So, British Telecom itself is one of the biggest telecommunications companies in the world. So the agencies that we were using, one were sort of, world class, but also the budgets were just crazy. And you're talking about 12, 13 years ago now. So we were launching a website about 14 years ago called BT Vision, and my budget was $1 million then. I still don't have $1 million budgets, so so I got exposed to some great things, but I knew that was an area that I needed to immerse myself in. There was so much. The corporate world is not something that I desired strongly, but I knew I had to go through it to gain the insights. Yeah.
And what were some of the lessons? So what were some of the difficult lessons that you faced in that environment?
I think knowing that policies and procedures, as boring and as dull as they are, quality control measures, all of those things that really don't excite me are necessary to keep, I guess the word is control. So my I mean, you could speak to any of my team. They might say to you, oh, Minnie one day makes a decision to go left and the next day it's to go right. I don't call it being indecisive. I'm just forever evolving in my ideas and my processes. But that can be detrimental for a company of, I have just over 30 women working with me. So I could literally change the course of the entire brand in one sentence. And that's not healthy. You know, it's fun to watch the chaos. We're not going to do brows today. No, it's not that bad. But so it taught me how to be a lot more controlled in the way that I thought, how to deliver. It in fact is the lessons I learned there is how I actually managed to open my very first brow bar in Maya. And I got a Maya contract instantly. I don't think I would have be able to pull that off in 2018. But in 2008, when I contacted Maya, I had no contacts, by the way, so I literally know nobody. I always say I'm the most unnetworked, unconnected businesswoman I know. I just hustle my way through, so it just is what it is. But I moved back from London and I was like, right, how am I going to do this now? I know that I need to be in the department stores. I know that that was where the opportunity was. The biggest player is Maya. Debatable today, but anyway. And so we went, okay, I said, all right, I don't know anyone at Maya. So I went on their website and I found this email address. It's called info@maya.com.au. So I emailed them and I said, I have a very important proposition for you, but you need to sign this NDA before I release any information. So that tone of voice, the legal, the NDA, it was just a, don't tell anyone, but a rip-off from British Telecom, just changed a few names on there. You know, they've got a really good legal team. So
Does this go in the ebook? Is this in the entrepreneur?
Not that bit, but my blog always goes a little into these stories. So, so I got a response, I'd say within 48 hours, and my store was opened up 8 months later.
Impressive. Yeah. So thinking about the early days of the store, what were some of the hurdles around that time? What were your challenges? Time management more than anything. So everyone knows that with any startup, you're not bringing in the big bucks from day one. So how do you pay the bills? How do you pay your own personal life bills as well? Like I still had a mortgage, I still had to eat and all that kind of stuff, but I also had staff from day one because my business at the time was a nail and brow bar, but regardless, it's still service. So I had to hire people instantly. So I know a lot of small businesses, the founder does all the work for the first year or the first 2 years before they can put the first employee on. I had to have employees from day one to, do the services. Mind you, I went and did my nail technician certificate. I'm quite proud of it, and I was on the tools for the first 12 months. Again, one was to save costs, but two was also to really understand the art behind what the brand was doing, so I could authentically make decisions of how to create the experience correctly. So in order to be able to pay the bills, I still had my corporate job. So I was working at Medibank Private at the time. I was their online specialist at the time, and I was making bank there, but it was a 9-to-5 job, 5 days a week, and the store is open 7 days a week. So those 9 to 5 day hours, I had my team there of I think 2 or 3 people at the time, and then the nights, Thursday and Friday nights I was there, Saturday and Sunday I was there. Yeah, so time management's a big one then. So
massive.
Yeah, and then today obviously the time management skills, is that the same as it was back then?
Yeah, but for different reasons. So I have one of those beautiful little babies as well at home. So for me to be here tonight to talk to all of you, which I'm really honoured to do, it also requires me to take my kid to the other side of Melbourne. She has to stay over tonight for me to be able to sit with you here, Wayne, and have this chat, which I'm happy to do. But there's lots of opportunity costs. So now everything I do, I stop and I think, is this valuable enough for me to sacrifice a night away from my kid?
Yeah.
Or whereas in the early days, the sacrifices were more monetary.
Yeah. In those early days then, the brow bar were you always thinking on the grand vision of
going national, or was it a case of, okay, right, head down, see how this bar goes, or was it always thinking?
All the way. Day one, all the way. I just an all or nothing person. So it was the vision I had at like 10.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a brow bar back then, by the way. So when I was 7, my parents took us to our first international trip overseas. We did the UK, we did Cyprus, and we also did Turkey. We had family living in Istanbul. So I was 7 years old, walked into one of the palaces in Istanbul, and I just looked up at this opulent, insanely overdone place and just said to myself, when I grow up, I am going to work in a place that looks like this. Not live, work. So this work ethic has been embedded in me from birth, because I literally was raised in a milk bar for the first 7 years of my life. We lived upstairs and the milk bar was on the bottom. So for me, everything was work, 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 work. I forgot what you asked me. Sorry.
So have I.
Okay, well, anyway, but this is where it led me to how
The grand vision.
Yeah, it wasn't a brow bar. So when I back at 7, I just wanted to work in a palace, essentially. You know, who doesn't, right? So as I got into the corporate world, I knew that I was definitely into beauty. That was something I was just passionate, just personally loved all things beauty. And I realised that there was no hammams in Australia, which is Turkish baths, right? There's an opportunity in the Australian market. I am going to design the country's most finest day spa with a hammam look and feel to it, an Ottoman bath look and feel to it. So I was a marketing manager for iSelect. So the iSelect logo that you guys see and the terracotta orange, you know, I picked that. I was in a taxi in Sydney and saw an orange building and said, that's the iSelect logo colour. So that's how those things happen, guys. And then Damien Weller, who is the founder but the CEO at the time, I put my resignation in and said, all right, I'm ready now to move to London and go really write my business plan for this Ottoman day spa that I thought was what it was going to be. So it wasn't until, so when I went to London, I wasn't there just to get some corporate experience. I was also there to spend a bit of time in Turkey. My Turkish is terrible, but I wing it all the time, and spend some time there and really kind of get understanding of what this spa was going to eventuate into. And I did that, so that's where the aesthetic. So of course, all of you are going to follow me on Instagram at the end of this to really get an understanding of what the look and feel of my brand is and all of that kind of stuff. But the aesthetic side was locked in at that point. The service, what it really is, that came about on my lunch breaks when I was working at British Telecom and jumping on the tube and running to John Lewis at my lunch break to get my nails done, and then going, crap, whilst I'm here, I'll just run to the other side of the department store and get my eyebrows threaded. So these things already existed. I am the very first brow bar to open up in Australia in threading 10 years ago, but I did not invent threading. It's been around for thousands of years, and I didn't invent it as a concept in a department store. Most of the ideas that most of us have are something that's already kind of been thought about, but we reinvent them or we make them contemporary for the audience that we are today. So as I would sit in this, tight lunch break period of trying to get my nails done and running across and getting my brows done, I realised, what if we had them combined? Because every 3 weeks I'm coming to get my nails and my brows done, and I just would have saved a little bit more time if they were together. And that's basically how Ottoman 3 came to light. That's the 3, every 3 weeks of coming in and having the service done. We did nails for 5 years. It really wasn't profitable. Fantastic for marketing, fantastic for PR. Could get any story in the Herald Sun about stuff like that, and no one really cared about brows back then. But really, at 5 years, I had to make a call. Where is the direction of this business now? And so I decided, we're going to grow the brow side because I'm going to start manufacturing brow products.
When you first started off, did you have, when you're obviously writing this business plan and everything else, did you have any people saying to you, no, you can't do that, why are you doing this, you're crazy, or anything else like that?
Just my brother with the name of the company, so Ottoman 3. So obviously the Ottoman was purely because of the inspiration of the Ottoman Empire in Istanbul, and the 3 was the 3-week turnaround at the time. By the way, that's changed. The 3 now stands for our 3 corporate values because we no longer do nails anymore, right? But my brother was very concerned when I came back from London, and I said, listen, I'm going to start this company. I think I'm going to call it Ottoman Bar, or I wasn't sure, but I knew Ottoman for sure. And he said, Minnie, we live in a country where there is just an abundance of racism and cultural, you're going to get pushback. And we were living in a time where the Muslim community was not being looked upon very positively, and it really wasn't something you would base an entire business model off. He thought I was committing suicide, basically. And I said to him, well, there's this brand called, what's it called, Mecca? And they sell like makeup, and not a single person relates that to the Muslim religion. And I said, so I don't think the Australian audience is really looking at, I don't think anyone really often looks at the Mecca brand and goes, oh, that's the Mecca for Islam. And I never hear anyone talk about Mecca like that, and they're a real career goal of ours as well. So I said, but I hear you. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm just going to stick with it. But what I'll do is in the logo, I'll put up my backup plan. So inside my icon of my logo is 03. So if things ever did go to crap, I would quickly change the brand from Ottoman 3 to 03. 10 years later, not a single person has ever given me any grief for the name, other than, oh, so you named your brand after a footstool. So, yeah.
Cool. Excellent. And as a woman in business then, have you had any challenges as being a female in business, or is it played to your advantage?
I'm just going to disappoint everyone and say no.
That's good though.
I just haven't, not even in my corporate world. You know, I just have not experienced it. We talk about it all the time in the office as well. We do have a full female team. It's personally, I've not experienced it. We do have challenges of having a full female team though in our office now for different reasons. Would you like me to expand on that?
I'd like you to expand on that, yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
So as far as, this is very cultural, okay? So please bear with me on this one. For threading, our brow artists typically come from India for the most part, purely because that's where most of the people have their skill set from. Some from the Middle East, but predominantly from India. So the women that I have, so I have about 25 to 28 brow artists at the moment. Many of them are really like been in Australia for less than 5 years, majority of them, okay? They come from a culture where the man runs the household. So men are ahead of a woman as far as career. So if the child is sick, guess who stays home? It's not the husband. But guess what the husband does? He's an Uber driver. All right. So he has more flexibility to go pick up the kid from school if he's called in sick. She doesn't have that flexibility. She's got to catch 2 trains and a tram to get to the store. But this cultural aspect for us is something that we're constantly battling in. It's a really difficult one because often she actually is the breadwinner, or should I say, making more money in the household. We know this because we talk to them very intimately about it and trying to empower them to try and give them a voice in their own home to say, look, if the teacher calls and the kid's sick, you have to make a call who goes to pick up that kid. And that kind of, to me, goes back 20, 30 years where you would never expect the husband to leave his corporate job to pick up the kid sick from school. Of course the mum would do it. Yeah. That's a bit backward.
Yeah, and it's good that you've got that open relationship with the staff.
Yeah, many husbands dislike me. Yeah. That's all right. At the beginning, because of this culture, this is going back the 10 years, I'd say for the first 6 months, husbands would call me to tell me stuff about their wives, whether it's like she's called in sick or something to do with her pay or some administration question. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you. I don't employ you. You can put the phone on to the person that I've employed. I can have the conversation with her as politely and respectfully as I could. That doesn't happen anymore, but yeah, those are the challenges, I guess, from a female perspective.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. And then thinking about your role today and thinking about national rollout, what are some of the things that excite you about that?
Oh, you want to go positive first?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Great. Well, brand awareness is awesome for me. So our goal and our mission is to be first in mind when it comes to brows. All things brows, you think Ottoman 3. If you can't access a brow bar, then you've got access to our brow products. Cool. So I don't know how many of you out here are into beauty, but Anastasia Beverly Hills in the US, do we know her? Yeah, there's some nodding there. Anyway, she's my idol when it comes to brows. 30 years in, you think brows in America, you think of Anastasia. There's a couple of brands in the UK, but not as predominantly as Anastasia, and that's what our goal is.
Excellent. And then some of the challenges that you face currently with rolling out nationally, what are they?
Believe it or not, what I thought it was going to be was funding. And after you show some goodwill with banks and people and all of that, funding does come to you. It's more about management. Like, where do I sit? Like, do I do this from my South Melbourne office with my team of 6 in HQ, or do I need to now hire up and get in a new CEO or a business development manager that is ex-Sephora or ex-Mecca because I've never rolled out nationally before? Do I need to move to Perth when I open Perth, and sit there and make sure that the culture is the way that I've instilled here? How do you get culture to go through nationally? It's not just it's not just bricks and mortar. That's kind of the easy part, though that stuff is hard too. For us, our business is all about people. So it's purely service, and it starts with service. Sure, we have the products as well, but it's a byproduct. So you can't underestimate the power of failure based on attitude.
And making these decisions then, do you have a sounding board? Are you regularly asking other people for their advice, or do you internalize that?
No, I've just started talking openly to some people about the national rollout, and what I keep hitting is roadblocks for the fact that it's never been done before from a brow bar perspective. So that hasn't really been done before. There's certainly a couple of brands that are in a couple of states, but not to what the Ottoman 3 experience is. We're not that mid-mall kiosk where you jump in and hopefully she's washed her hands or not, and we're not sure. We're much higher end. We're all about this experience. You go in, you should feel like you've walked into a hammam in the palaces of Istanbul. That in itself should take your breath away a little bit. And then when you get your brows done, you should be turning around and going, now there was something quite magical about the brow artist. Like, she knows what's going down. Yeah, so our educational and our training, I mean, it's huge for us. It's not a quick fix. We are there for the long term. So to replicate that in Melbourne is hard enough. To replicate that interstate is so hard. And the couple of people, mentors that I don't have a mentor, by the way, never have, but there's been a couple of people that I had coffee with recently who are very successful in their lanes, not beauty and not service either. So I'm kind of left alone here to make this decision.
So failure is the way in which you learn sometimes, obviously, making those decisions.
Yeah, I'm going to screw it up, I know. But the decision really isn't how to do it right now. The decision is yes or no, are we going to do it? How to, I have so much faith within myself that I know I can surround myself with great people to make it happen. That I'm 100% with, like, no doubt.
Yeah. People are very important, and that aspect, but also, I mean, you're a natural on social media from what I've seen, and obviously the digital space. How important is that to your brand and growing that? And
such a big question.
Yeah.
It's my favorite topic this week.
Okay.
You ready for it?
Yeah.
It does nothing for my brand, right? But I'm loving it anyway, and I'm fully invested. I can do it. I find my half a dozen people that follow me, and after tonight, I'm doubling those numbers, right?
Yeah.
I find the people that do follow me, which is literally is a handful, 1,000, literally, they're pretty much all engaged. I have really high engagement. So when I've got you, I've got you. That I've learnt about myself. So that's why I bet on myself all the time. But as far as did we need it to be turning 10 next year? No. No.
Mm-hmm. So that authenticity, is that coming through on your social, would you say?
So we have 2 pages. We have the mini Latif page, which is the, come behind the scenes, how to be an entrepreneur type story. I'll jump on with me, and then I'll entertain you a little bit with my 2-year-old. She's a laugh, so you chuck her in for entertainment value, but it's also part of the story, right? I'm a single mum as well, so that's kind of challenging at the age of 2. So that throws a whole other spanner in the works. But then you have the Ottoman 3 page as well, which is just purely brand, and we have invested thousands of dollars, very much around the tens of thousands of dollars of it. Several agencies have gone through our social media channels, several people have gone through it, and we still sit at 3,000. And we have done for about 5 years.
Wow.
We don't know what's happened. So I'm just like dumbfounded and almost gone, stop getting distracted by social media, like where I make money now, because I never thought about money before, by the way. Mine was all about get the experience, get the service, get the product right. Money will come, and it does. But now it's like, dude, I got to pay the bills. So my operating expenses now are insane. So I have my eye very close on our P&L, and I'm very aware of my margins. I always have been, but now it matters more. The stakes are a lot higher now. I pretty much pay for 30 people's mortgages, right? So there's a lot of pressure there. So anyway, the social media is not what made the brand last 10 years and be successful. So it's there. We work on it, but I try not to be distracted by it.
Yeah. Some of your attention obviously is over in the US a little bit. I think you see some influence coming from the US.
Yeah, tons.
On the bigger picture, do you see that as a place where you want to go?
My vision board that doesn't exist, it's all in here. So it does exist, but it's what is it, virtual, is that the word? I don't know. Anyway, is Sephora for me. So that's my goal. So to get into, that's how I see logically I can be international or even national in Australia, is to get into distribution channels like the Meccas and like the Sephoras. So it's very painful for me to see that some influencers who have, 100,000 followers or something, decide to launch a face mask because they have 100,000 followers, and Sephora signs them right up. Whereas I'm 10 years in, I'm fully authentic. I could tell you everything you need to know about a brow, like from inside out. Like, what do you want to know? I can help you. So there's nothing more authentic than saying, I've done over 600,000 eyebrows. I've been around for 10 years. This is my brow product line. That should be signed up. It's not happening for me. So again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. I am so unnetworked. I'm the least connected person you'll meet, but I'm still here. And it will happen. Just not as easily if I had more contacts, I suppose.
Okay. I'm going to save that question. I'm going to come back to that in the Q&A. But just one last question before we wrap this up. If you could go back and you could tell yourself 1 or 2 things now, what would that be?
Do more, actually, because I'm not slowing down now. If anything, we're like quadrupling everything we're doing. But I didn't have a kid at the start. I've got a kid now, so that slows you down. I wasn't married at the start, being single. There's nothing more powerful than being a single woman without a kid. You are the most powerful person in the room, because that is someone that has a lot of energy that is not having to be split by partners, children. That stuff all comes if you choose to, if you want it. And it's so interesting now that I look back and go, why didn't I do more of that before I had to worry about family and stuff like that?
Yeah, cool. Great way to end. So guys, can we have a round of applause? Mini Latif of Ottoman 3. Thanks very much, Mini.
Thank you.
Thank you.